What is going on, folks? I'm Suburban Angling, and today I'm out here doing another gear review style video for you guys. I'm not out there on a lake, pond, river today fishing. Today we're going to talk about fishing lures, and today we're going to talk about 3 bass fishing lures that surprised me this year. So what does that mean? What does a lure that surprised you mean? Does that mean that you thought it was going to be really bad and you caught a lot of fish on it? Does that mean you thought it was going to catch a lot of fish and you didn't catch anything on it? For the context of this video, all that means is that it's a fishing lure that I bought and, thinking it could be good, it could be bad, and with low expectations, or I bought knowing, at least I put the lure in a box, so to speak. And then the lure surprised me by not only, performing in said box, but performing outside the box and doing things and catching fish in ways that I didn't really think it would be able to, or at least it wouldn't think that'd be the best way to do it. But for some reason, it's just it works really well. So that's what I mean by surprising me. Lures that I think should be brought to your attention. This video is gonna be awesome because not only am I gonna show you the lures and talk about them, but I got little clips of underwater footage just so you guys can see some of the action and that I pulled from different people's YouTube channel that I'm going to give full credit to, as well as some underwater footage that I took of one of the lures. So all in all, I think you guys are going to get a pretty detailed overview of each individual bait. Alright guys, so the first bait that I want to tell you guys about is the Biz Bait cutter craw. So the reason that this thing surprised me is, look at it, it just looks like honestly a typical crawfish imitation creature bait, whatever you want to call it. But I'm gonna put a little clip right here of some underwater footage that Biz Bait actually posted on their Facebook page. So I do not own the footage right here. I do not have, I give full credit to Biz Bait for this footage. So as you guys can see, this thing has a lot of action. The little clip I showed you guys, or I'm showing you guys, I don't know how long I put it in there, but it is a Texas rig. I've personally caught fish on this on a shaky head. I use it as a jig trailer. I've thrown it as on a jicker rig or a jeeker rig or a zeker rig, whatever you want to call it, but very, very versatile bait. And the reason it surprised me is because I caught fish on this bait everywhere, okay guys? I would catch fish on this bait in 20 foot deep on a 3/8 ounce jig on a jig trailer. I would catch fish on this thing in 2 foot deep flipping lily pads. I would catch fish on this thing in a river, drifting it down on like a shaky head or a small jig or some kind of light jicker rig or just any kind of bottom contact bait. This thing would just caught a lot of fish for me. Even catch me some checks in some tournaments and caught me some of my biggest bass of the year. This is one of those baits that you bought, I don't want to say with low expectations, but you kind of bought thinking they'll probably catch me a few fish, they're probably good, definitely a good bait to have in the arsenal, yada yada yada. The same stuff that you always say when you justify buying some more lures, right? But real talk, guys, this bait is super versatile, crazy action. As you saw in the little clip I showed you guys, you can swim it. The claws are super, super thin. So, you can put, literally if you really wanted to, you could throw this like on a chatterbait or a jackhammer. This would work great for that. Like, would work super awesome for that. I just think it's a versatile bait that not enough people are using, and I think that this will put more biggins in your boat, put more fish on the bump board. It's something that if you're fishing, like I said, if you're a bottom contact bait person, if you like to throw jigs, if you like to throw shaky heads, if you like to throw Texas rig, jicker rig, anything of the sort, get these Biz Bait cutter craws. They're a really great bait, and as you saw in the underwater footage, they have really great action, and I just don't think enough people are talking about them. The second lure that I want to show you guys in this video is going to be from Biospawn, and that's going to be the plasma tail worm. This is a lure that's actually been around for a really long time. They dropped like in 2015. I know some people know about them, and I'm not going to say they're anything new, but at least for me, I just started using them recently this year. And I've never really heard of anybody else using them besides like the few YouTube videos that I could find, again, from way back in the day being 2015. But these are a lure that has definitely become a staple in my tackle box. And I really only throw them on 2 presentations, but there's a few different presentations that you could throw them and get away with. But these 2 presentations that I use them for, I thought that they might be good for. I knew that they would catch a bass, right? We all know that a soft plastic worm is going to catch a bass, but it was the fact that I started grabbing these instead of grabbing zoom worms, instead of grabbing some of my robo worms, instead of, grabbing some of my Senkos, you know what I mean? Like, this became a go-to shake your head and drop shot worm for me. So let me take some of them out the package and let me show you what I'm working with, and then let me put a little clip of some underwater footage. This is the 6.5, and this is, I believe it's a 4-inch. It might be a 4 1/4, but these worms, I mean, look at them already. They are super flexible. They have some of the craziest action I've ever seen, and I just don't think they're talked about enough. You know, a lot of people love to drop shot the robo worm, right? Well, this is the color motor oil plasma tail worm, which is very, very, very similar to a robo worm in Morning Dawn, which I actually have a bunch of packs of those sitting in my tackle room right now. But I have recently been reaching for this worm quite a bit more. There's a few reasons for that. Number one reason is they're pretty cheap. If you go on Carl's Bait and Tackle, when they're having a sale, you can get packs of these worms for like $3 a pack, $3.50 a pack, sometimes even like $2.50 a pack. That's just a steal for a worm that's, I'm gonna keep it real, pretty durable. Like for a drop shot, you know, worm, you can throw these and catch, I would say, a good 5 to maybe even 10 bass on them before they, you know, fall off the hook, which is pretty good for a worm like this. Don't get me wrong, you get those one-offs where he just shakes the worm off, but overall, pretty durable for the amount of action that you get out of them. So right now, I only have these 2 colors to show you, but they make a plethora of really great colors that would work all around the country. So if you go check them out on Carl's Bait and Tackle, which I'll leave a link in the description, you will be able to go and see that no matter where you live in the country, you can buy these worms and throw them on not only a drop shot, but a shaky head as well. They're really great on a shaky head, especially this bigger 6.5-inch worm. No matter where you live, these worms will get it done on a shaky head or a drop shot. Drop shot in the summer, shaky head the rest of the year. Great worms, not talked about enough, really cheap. All right, folks, the third and final lure of the video, and a lure that you guys have heard me talk about before in the past, and a lure that some of you guys might roll your eyes at first when I show you. These lures genuinely did surprise me this year and caught fish in ways that I just wouldn't have expected them to. And I only caught fish in ways that I wouldn't have expected them to, but caught fish all day in ways that I wouldn't have expected them to, like consistently. Like, it was the pattern, it was the bite, it cashed me a check, you know what I mean? Like, this lure just, it did it all for me this season, and that's gonna be the tightrope jig. These tightrope firework jigs have been catching fish for me consistently in all bodies of water, in all clarities of water, every single, literally all over the Midwest. And trust me, they catch fish all over the country. These jigs are just amazing. I'm gonna throw an underwater clip that I can actually give credit to myself for. I filmed a video a year or 2 ago explaining why these jigs are some of the best jigs on the market. This underwater footage right here is a micro finesse jig with a Sakoshi bug on the back of it as a trailer. Really great for clear water, really great for those inland clear water lakes that we have up here in the Midwest. Now, the reason these jigs surprised me this year, for example, folks, I had a tournament this year on the Wisconsin River. I actually posted all that footage to this channel. Some of you guys may have seen it. We cashed a check. It was a, pretty fond memory from this summer. But anyways, it was on the Wisconsin River, and the target was obviously smallmouth bass. So, you're thinking top water, whopper plopper, spook. You're thinking Ned rig. You're thinking swim bait. You're thinking spinner bait maybe. You're not thinking I'm gonna be dragging a jig on the bottom slowly, like a heavy jig, like heavy enough where it's not even drifting. And I'm basically going to kind of hop it along like I'm just fishing in no current at a pond. Some of you guys may be looking at me like, okay, but how does that surprise you? The reason that surprises me because I river fish for smallmouth a lot, guys. I've never really thrown a medium heavy action bait caster with a jig in 2 foot of water and hopped along something, you know what I mean? And just basically power fished in current with something like this. It was different for me, and it really made me realize the versatility of the jig, and honestly, the firework jig. This tightrope jig just straight up catches them. I could have been throwing like a 1/4 ounce, really, long-haired Strike King Bitsy bug. Would it have caught some fish? I am sure. Would it have caught as many fish? The way those smallmouth were acting, they're pretty dialed. I mean, There was bite windows, guys. They wanted certain baits at certain times. I caught a lot of fish on swim baits too, on jigger rigs, but then when they didn't want that, the only thing they wanted was the jig. That's just one example of the tightrope jig that surprised me. Honestly, I could go on and on and on. This thing has caught me fish pretty much every single time I've tied it on and gone to any body of water. I think that that's something that I really want to share with you guys. And again, some of you guys may be looking at me like, well, it's just a jig, man. I mean, that's not really anything crazy. Maybe you expected more, I don't know. But I really made this video not to show you guys any trade secrets, but to kind of reiterate the fact that there are some baits out there that maybe look like everything else, or maybe to you look like everything else, or just maybe you've seen them before and overlooked them because you just don't know anybody that uses them and you just think, it's just another jig, or it's just another worm, or it's just another craw. If you've watched my channel in the past, any of my bass fishing videos, there's a really high chance that you watched me catch a bass on one of these 3 lures. Alright folks, well that's going to do it for me in this video. I really hope you learned something from it. I know it wasn't a super exciting video. I know I'm not out there on the water setting the hook a bunch of times, flipping some big ones over the side of the boat, but at the end of the day, this is still some really valuable information that I think you guys can learn from, and some lures that have been catching me fish all year that I just can't keep to myself. You know what I mean? I can't be selfish anymore. It's time for me to let the cat out of the bag, so to speak. If you're new to my channel and you enjoyed this video, I highly suggest you go down below and hit the subscribe button. I check my statistics and my analytics for my YouTube channel quite often, and I noticed that recently over 75 to 80% of my viewers have been not subscribed to my channel, which means that that's awesome because I have a lot of opportunity for growth because new faces are seeing my videos, but not a lot of those new faces are subscribing, it seems. You know, I'm gaining subscribers for sure, but not as many I would like with the amount of people that are watching that aren't subscribed to my channel. So if you're new to my channel and you enjoyed this video, please go down below and hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. That's gonna do it for me today, folks. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.